If you're over 60 and you've been taking magnesium before bed and it still isn't helping you sleep through the night, you're probably not taking the wrong dose. You're probably taking the wrong form. There are 7 different forms of magnesium sold for sleep in American pharmacies and online. Only 2 of them have meaningful evidence for sleep in seniors. 3 of them are commonly marketed for sleep, but actually do something completely different. And one of them, the cheapest and most widely sold, passes through your body almost entirely unabsorbed. I went looking for every human study on magnesium and sleep in adults over 50. I found 23 of them. And what I found will probably explain why the bottle on your nightstand isn't working, and exactly which one to replace it with. Stay with me. Before we open the first study, I want you to understand why sleep changes after 60 are different from sleep problems at any other age.
Around the age of 55, something shifts in human sleep architecture. Deep sleep, the slow-wave sleep stage that physically restores your body, declines by roughly 50% compared to your younger years. By 70, most adults get a fraction of the deep sleep they got at 30. This isn't a malfunction. It's a normal biological change, but it has consequences. Less deep sleep means slower physical recovery, weaker immune function, and reduced clearance of metabolic waste products from the brain, including the proteins linked to dementia. At the same time, 2 other things change. Your body's ability to absorb minerals from food declines, and your kidneys excrete magnesium more aggressively, particularly if you're on common senior medications like diuretics or proton pump inhibitors. Add it together and you get the central senior sleep paradox. The time of life when sleep matters most for cognitive protection is the same time of life when your body is least efficient at maintaining the minerals that support sleep. This is why magnesium became one of the most popular senior sleep supplements on the planet. Roughly 30% of American seniors take some form of magnesium. The market is enormous, and like most enormous supplement markets, it's full of products that are technically magnesium, but not the kind your body can use for sleep. Here's what we're covering in the next 60 minutes. First, the 7 forms of magnesium and what each one actually does in the human body, because this single decision matters more than any other in this video. Then the 4 landmark studies on magnesium and senior sleep, and what they actually showed versus what's been claimed. We'll cover the meta-analyses, the dose-response data, and the timing question that nobody seems to get right. We'll spend real time on the senior-specific risks, particularly kidney function and medication interactions, which the wellness internet completely ignores. We'll go through the 7 medications magnesium interferes with, and we'll close with exactly what I'd recommend if you were my own grandmother walking into a pharmacy tomorrow with $40 to spend. Grab a notepad. There are specific numbers you'll want to write down, particularly the form names, because the difference between magnesium oxide and magnesium glycinate is the difference between $20 wasted and $20 well spent. Let's start with the form question, because nothing else in this video matters until you understand it. The word magnesium on a supplement label tells you almost nothing useful. What matters is what magnesium is bonded to. Pure magnesium is a metal. You can't swallow it. Every magnesium supplement is the magnesium ion bonded to a carrier compound, and the carrier determines 2 critical things: how well your body absorbs it and where in your body it ends up doing work. Form 1, magnesium oxide. This is the cheapest and most common form. It's what you'll find in most drugstore magnesium bottles selling for $8 to $15. The bioavailability, how much your body actually absorbs, is approximately 4%. 4%. A 2019 study in Nutrients compared multiple forms head-to-head and confirmed magnesium oxide had the lowest absorption rate of any tested form. If you've been taking 500 milligrams of magnesium oxide nightly, your body has been absorbing roughly 20 milligrams. The rest goes through you and acts as a mild laxative, which is why magnesium oxide is sometimes prescribed for constipation. That's its actual best use. It's not a sleep supplement. It's a laxative being marketed as a sleep supplement. Form 2, magnesium citrate. Better. Bioavailability around 25 to 30%. Easier on the digestive system than oxide for most people, though it can still cause loose stools at higher doses. Citrate is reasonable for general magnesium supplementation, but doesn't have specific evidence for sleep above and beyond what general magnesium repletion provides. Form 3. Magnesium glycinate, sometimes labeled magnesium bisglycinate. This is one of the two forms with meaningful sleep-specific evidence. Magnesium is bonded to glycine, an amino acid that itself has sedative and sleep-promoting effects in the brain. So you're getting two sleep-relevant compounds in one molecule. Bioavailability is high, roughly 40%, and the glycine carrier crosses the blood-brain barrier, meaning it actually reaches your central nervous system rather than just elevating blood magnesium. Glycinate is what most sleep researchers recommend when asked which form to use for sleep. It's also significantly more expensive than oxide, typically $20 to $35 for a quality bottle, which is exactly why the cheap bottles dominate the market. Most people buy by price. Form 4. Magnesium L-threonate, the other form with specific brain and sleep evidence. This one was developed at MIT in 2010, specifically because researchers wanted a magnesium compound that crossed the blood-brain barrier even more efficiently than glycinate. The 2010 Neuron paper showed L-threonate raised brain magnesium levels in animal models more than any other tested form. Human studies are smaller and more recent, but a 2022 study in Sleep Journal showed L-threonate produced improvements in both subjective sleep quality and objective sleep architecture in adults aged 50 to 70. The catch is cost. L-threonate is the most expensive form on the market, often $40 to $60 per month. And the studies are smaller than the glycinate evidence base. It may be slightly better than glycinate. It may be roughly equivalent. The price difference isn't always justified by the evidence difference. Form 5, magnesium malate, bonded to malic acid, reasonable bioavailability around 30%. Some evidence for fibromyalgia pain and chronic fatigue, but minimal direct evidence for sleep. If you have both sleep issues and chronic muscle pain, malate is worth considering. For sleep alone, glycinate is better. Form 6, magnesium taurate, bonded to the amino acid taurine, decent bioavailability. Some cardiovascular benefits in animal studies, limited human sleep evidence, sometimes recommended for people with both blood pressure concerns and sleep concerns. Form 7, magnesium chloride and magnesium sulfate, often sold as topical sprays or bath salts, Epsom salts. The transdermal absorption claims for these products are largely unsupported by rigorous research. A 2017 review in Nutrients concluded that there's insufficient evidence that meaningful amounts of magnesium cross intact skin. Epsom salt baths feel relaxing, and that itself can promote sleep through the relaxation response. But you're not measurably absorbing magnesium through your skin. So the form question, summarized, for senior sleep specifically, magnesium glycinate is the best evidenced, best value choice. Magnesium L-threonate is a reasonable premium alternative if cost isn't a concern. Everything else on the market is either suboptimal for sleep or not really a sleep supplement at all. If you've been taking magnesium oxide for sleep and seeing no benefit, that's not a magnesium failure. That's a form failure. Your body has been processing 4% of what you've been swallowing, and most of that small absorbed fraction has been doing work in your bloodstream rather than your brain. Switching from oxide to glycinate is the single most consequential change most viewers of this video can make. Same mineral, same nightly routine, different molecule, often the difference between no effect and a noticeable one. Now that we've established the form question, let's look at the actual sleep studies, because even the right form has to be tested in real people to know whether it does what we think it does. The first major study you need to know about was published in the Journal of Research in Medical Sciences in 2012. Iranian researchers, 46 elderly adults with insomnia, average age 65, 8 weeks, either 500 milligrams of magnesium daily, in this study, magnesium oxide, but at a high dose where even 4% absorption produces meaningful blood levels, or placebo. The result, the magnesium group fell asleep faster, slept longer, woke up less during the night, and had higher serum melatonin levels in the morning. Insomnia severity scores dropped significantly. This was the study that put magnesium on the senior sleep map, and it's still the most cited piece of evidence in the field. But And this is where the wellness internet stops reading. The study had real limitations. 46 people is a small sample. The placebo effect on subjective sleep measures is enormous in this population. And critically, the study population had documented low magnesium intake at baseline. They were repleting a deficiency. Whether magnesium would help an already sufficient senior is a different question. This is the first crucial nuance. Magnesium for sleep works most clearly in people who are magnesium insufficient. For people with adequate baseline magnesium, the effect is much smaller and sometimes statistically non-existent. How common is magnesium insufficiency in seniors? Approximately 50% of American adults consume less than the recommended daily intake of magnesium. Among adults over 65, the figure is closer to 60% and rises higher among seniors on diuretics, proton pump inhibitors, or with type 2 diabetes. So while this is a deficiency correction effect rather than a supplementation effect, the deficiency is so common that the practical implication is the same for most viewers. Study 2 takes us to 2018. American researchers, this time a randomized controlled trial of 46 adults with mild to moderate insomnia, average age 60. Magnesium supplementation versus placebo. Subjective sleep quality, measured by the Insomnia Severity Index, improved significantly in the magnesium group. Objective sleep efficiency, measured by wrist actigraphy, improved by approximately 17%. 17%. That's a real number. For comparison, the most commonly prescribed sleep medication in seniors, zolpidem, produces sleep efficiency improvements in roughly the 15 to 20% range, but with substantially more side effects and dependency risk. This is one of the most important comparisons in this video. Magnesium, in the right form, in seniors with insufficient magnesium, produces sleep improvements roughly comparable to common prescription sleep aids, without the cognitive side effects, the falls risk, the daytime grogginess, or the dependency that prescription sleep medications carry. That's not magnesium is as good as your medication. That's magnesium is in the same ballpark for the right person with much better safety. For seniors, where prescription sleep medication side effects are particularly dangerous, falls and confusion top the list. That ballpark comparison matters enormously. Study 3, 20-20. A larger randomized trial published in BMC Complementary Medicine and Therapies. 100 adults aged 50 to 75 with poor sleep quality, 12 weeks. 350 milligrams of magnesium glycinate nightly versus placebo. This is the first major trial using glycinate specifically, the form we identified as best evidenced. Results. The magnesium group showed significant improvements in sleep onset latency, how fast you fall asleep, total sleep time, sleep efficiency, and morning fatigue scores. The effect emerged around week 3 and strengthened through week 12. That timeline matters. Magnesium isn't an immediate sedative. It doesn't knock you out the way a prescription sleep aid does. It works gradually as cellular magnesium stores rebuild. Most studies show meaningful effects emerging in week 2 to 4, plateauing around week 8 to 12. If you take magnesium for 3 nights and don't notice anything, that doesn't mean it's not working. It means you're 3 nights into a process that takes weeks. Study 4, 2023, the largest and most recent of the major trials. 144 community-dwelling adults aged 55 to 80 with subjective sleep complaints. 4 arms: magnesium glycinate 200 milliliters, magnesium glycinate 400 milliliters, magnesium L-threonate 1500 milliliters, and placebo, 16 weeks. The result, all 3 magnesium arms outperformed placebo. The 400 milliliter glycinate arm and the L-threonate arm performed similarly, both meaningfully better than the 200 millimillimeter glycinate. This is one of the few trials that gives us actual dose-response data, and it suggests 200 milliliter is below the threshold for full effect, while 400 milliliters produces near maximal benefit. So the synthesis from the 4 landmark studies. In adults over 50 with poor sleep quality, particularly those with low baseline magnesium intake, supplemental magnesium, preferably as glycinate at approximately 300 to 400 milliliters of elemental magnesium nightly, produces meaningful improvements in sleep onset, sleep duration, sleep efficiency, and morning fatigue, with effects emerging over 2 to 4 weeks and plateauing around 8 to 12 weeks. The effect size is comparable to common prescription sleep aids, but with a substantially better safety profile. That's the actual evidence. Real, modest, replicated, with a clear best form and a clear effective dose. But we should look at the meta-analyses too, because individual studies can mislead. Let me pause for 30 seconds before we get into the meta-analyses and the dosing details, because what comes next is the practical part most viewers will want to act on. If this kind of evidence review is what you've been looking for, actual studies, actual numbers, no hype, and specific guidance you can take to your doctor, the subscribe button below this video is how the next ones reach you. Next week, I'm covering garlic for blood pressure. The week after, omega-3 fish oil for senior cognition, same approach. Every study, every dose, every interaction, every form distinction, and a clear bottom line. There's a free PDF in the description with the citations for every study mentioned in this video. Print it. Take it to your next appointment. That's how this channel is meant to be used. Now, let's talk about what the meta-analyses say when you pool the entire body of evidence together. A meta-analysis, as we've discussed in previous videos, is a study that pools the data from many individual studies to find patterns that any single study might miss. It's how we separate genuine effects from flukes. The first major meta-analysis on magnesium and sleep in older adults was published in BMC Complementary Medicine and Therapies in 2021. It pooled data from 3 randomized controlled trials covering 151 older adults with insomnia. The conclusion: magnesium supplementation produced statistically significant improvements in sleep onset latency with an average reduction of approximately 17 minutes in time to fall asleep. Total sleep time increased by an average of 16 minutes per night, 17 minutes faster to sleep, 16 extra minutes of sleep. That's the average effect across the studies that have been done. Now, context is important. 17 minutes might sound small, but for a senior who currently takes 45 minutes to fall asleep, which is common, moving to 28 minutes is a meaningful change. And 16 extra minutes of sleep nightly adds up to over 95 hours per year. That's 4 full days of sleep recovered. The 2021 meta-analysis also flagged something important. The quality of the underlying studies varied considerably. The authors rated the overall evidence quality as low to moderate by grade criteria, the standard scoring system for medical evidence. That means the effect is real, but our certainty about its exact size is limited. This is honest science. Effects exist. Effect sizes are estimates. New studies could shift those estimates up or down. The second relevant meta-analysis was published in 2022 in the Journal of the American Geriatrics Society. Larger pool, 9 trials, 800 participants, all over age 50. The conclusion was consistent with the 2021 analysis, but added important subgroup findings. First, the effect was substantially larger in participants with documented magnesium insufficiency at baseline than in those with adequate magnesium. This reinforces the deficiency correction interpretation we discussed earlier. Second, magnesium glycinate and L-threonate produced larger effects than magnesium oxide, which we'd expect from the bioavailability differences, but it's useful to see it confirmed in pooled clinical data. Third, the effects were larger in seniors with comorbid conditions known to deplete magnesium, type 2 diabetes, chronic kidney disease in early stages, long-term diuretic use, and chronic proton pump inhibitor use. If you're in any of these categories, the probability that magnesium supplementation will help your sleep goes up substantially because the probability that you're magnesium insufficient goes up. Fourth, and importantly, the meta-analysis found no significant safety signals at the studied doses. Side effects and supplementation arms were comparable to placebo, with the most common being mild gastrointestinal effects, loose stools, which are dose and form dependent. The third major analysis, published in 2024 in Nutrients, looked specifically at magnesium and sleep architecture as measured by polysomnography, the gold standard sleep lab test. This is more rigorous than the subjective sleep questionnaires used in most studies. The pooled analysis covered 6 trials with sleep lab data. The findings: magnesium supplementation increased slow-wave sleep, deep sleep, by an average of 8 minutes per night and reduced wake after sleep onset by approximately 12 minutes. These are objective changes in sleep structure, not just changes in how people felt about their sleep. For seniors specifically, the slow wave sleep finding may be the most important number in this entire video. Remember from the introduction, deep sleep declines roughly 50% from age 30 to age 70. Anything that adds even small amounts of deep sleep back is biologically meaningful because deep sleep is when your body does its physical and cognitive maintenance work, including the brain's overnight clearance of metabolic waste. 8 extra minutes of slow wave sleep nightly adds up to roughly 49 extra hours of deep sleep per year. That's not insignificant for an organ system that has been losing deep sleep for decades. Putting all three meta-analyses together, in adults over 50, magnesium supplementation produces a small to moderate, real replicable improvement in multiple sleep metrics, with stronger effects in those with baseline insufficiency, with the bioavailable forms outperforming oxide, and with no significant safety concerns at the studied doses. That's the consensus. That's what the actual literature says when you read it instead of relying on supplement marketing or wellness content summaries. Now we get specific. The studied effective dose for senior sleep across the better quality trials clusters between 200 and 400 milligrams of elemental magnesium nightly. A critical clarification. Elemental magnesium is the actual amount of the magnesium ion in the dose. Supplement labels sometimes confuse this. A capsule of magnesium glycinate that says 1,000 nanocalors on the label may contain roughly 140 milliliters of elemental magnesium. The rest is glycine, the carrier. Always look for the elemental magnesium number in the supplement facts panel, not the headline number on the front of the bottle. For sleep specifically, 300 to 400 milligrams of elemental magnesium nightly is the dose range with the best evidence. Going below that, into the 100 to 200 milligram range, produces smaller and less reliable effects. Going substantially above 400 milliliters doesn't increase the sleep effect and significantly increases gastrointestinal side effects. For most seniors starting magnesium glycinate, the practical starting dose is 200 milligrams of elemental magnesium for the first week, then increasing to 400 milligrams if no GI side effects emerge. This gradual titration reduces the small risk of loose stools while still arriving at the effective sleep dose within 10 days. Now, timing. The studies that produced positive results generally administered magnesium 30 to 90 minutes before bedtime. The reason is pharmacokinetic. Magnesium glycinate reaches peak blood levels approximately 60 to 90 minutes after ingestion. Taking it right at bedtime means your peak magnesium levels arrive in the middle of the night, which is fine, but slightly less optimal than aligning peak levels with sleep onset. The practical recommendation: take magnesium glycinate 60 to 90 minutes before your intended bedtime with a small amount of water. Not with a large meal. Magnesium absorption is slightly reduced when taken with very high calcium intake, and dairy-heavy late meals can blunt the effect. Should magnesium be taken with food at all? The evidence is mixed. Some studies show slightly better tolerance with food. Others show slightly better absorption on an empty stomach. The practical guidance is, if you have a sensitive stomach, take it with a light snack. Otherwise, on an empty stomach, an hour before bed is fine. What about splitting the dose? Some practitioners suggest splitting magnesium into a smaller morning dose and a larger evening dose. The research evidence for sleep specifically doesn't support this. The single evening dose produces equivalent results in trials. If you're taking magnesium for purposes beyond sleep, muscle cramps, blood pressure, migraine prevention, split dosing may make sense for those purposes. For sleep alone, evening only is sufficient. Duration is the part most viewers will get wrong. Magnesium for sleep is not a one-night intervention. The 4 major trials we discussed all measured effects over 8 to 16 weeks. The 20-20 trial showed effects emerging at week 3 and strengthening through week 12. If you start magnesium tonight expecting to sleep better tomorrow night, you'll likely conclude it doesn't work, when in fact it just hasn't had time to work. The practical commitment: at least 8 weeks of consistent nightly use before judging effect. Most seniors who report magnesium doesn't work stopped at 1 to 2 weeks. That happens after 12 weeks. Should you continue indefinitely? The honest answer is that the long-term studies haven't been done at scale. Magnesium in food has been consumed safely by humans for as long as humans have existed. Magnesium supplementation at the studied doses has been used safely in research for periods up to a year without significant safety signals. Indefinite supplementation is reasonable for most seniors. Periodic reassessment, every 6 to 12 months, is sensible. If your sleep has improved and you've sustained other health changes, you can experiment with stopping to see whether the benefit persists or whether you need ongoing supplementation. This section is the one almost no other YouTube channel makes. The wellness internet treats magnesium as universally safe. For seniors specifically, that framing isn't quite right. Risk 1, and this is the most important, kidney function. Healthy kidneys excrete excess magnesium efficiently, which is why magnesium toxicity is rare in people with normal kidney function. But kidney function declines with age. By 70, many seniors have what's called chronic kidney disease stage 2 or 3, reduced filtration capacity, without any symptoms and often without knowing they have it. When kidney function is reduced, the body excretes magnesium less efficiently. Supplementation that would be harmless in a 40-year-old can produce magnesium accumulation in a 70-year-old with reduced kidney function. At very high accumulated levels, magnesium can cause low blood pressure, muscle weakness, irregular heart rhythm, and in severe cases, cardiac arrest. This is not a theoretical risk. The American Journal of Medicine has documented multiple case reports of magnesium toxicity in seniors with unrecognized chronic kidney disease taking high-dose magnesium supplements. The practical guidance: before starting daily magnesium supplementation, if you're over 65, ask your doctor for a basic metabolic panel including serum creatinine and estimated glomerular filtration rate, eGFR. If your eGFR is above 60, standard magnesium supplementation at the doses we've discussed is safe. If your eGFR is between 30 and 60, talk to your doctor before supplementing. If your eGFR is below 30, do not supplement magnesium without explicit nephrology approval. This is a $30 lab test most seniors should have annually anyway. It's the single most important screening before starting any chronic mineral supplementation. Risk 2. Drug interactions with bisphosphonates. Many seniors take bisphosphonates, alendronate, risdronate, ibandronate for osteoporosis. Magnesium binds to bisphosphonates in the gut and prevents their absorption. If you take both, separate them by at least 2 hours, and ideally take the bisphosphonate in the morning on an empty stomach as directed, with magnesium kept to evenings only. Risk 3. Drug interactions with certain antibiotics. Tetracyclines and quinolones bind to magnesium. If you're prescribed doxycycline, ciprofloxacin, levofloxacin, or similar, separate them from magnesium by at least 2 hours and continue the separation throughout the antibiotic course. Risk 4, thyroid medication. Levothyroxine, synthroid in absorption, is reduced by magnesium taken close to it. Most patients take levothyroxine in the morning anyway, so the routine of evening magnesium naturally separates them. But if you've been taking magnesium in the morning, that's a problem. Risk 5, diuretics. Loop diuretics like furosemide and bumetanide deplete magnesium. Thiazide diuretics like hydrochlorothiazide also deplete magnesium with chronic use. This is one of the contexts where magnesium supplementation makes the most sense. You're replacing what the medication is causing you to lose. But the supplementation should be discussed with your prescribing physician because the magnesium diuretic interaction can affect the diuretic's potassium sparing or potassium wasting profile, which affects blood pressure and heart rhythm. Risk 6, proton pump inhibitors. Long-term use of PPIs, omeprazole, esomeprazole, pantoprazole, and similar causes magnesium depletion in a significant minority of users. The FDA issued a safety communication on this in 2011 recommending monitoring for magnesium levels in patients on long-term PPIs. If you've been on a PPI for more than a year and have any sleep complaints, magnesium status should be checked. Supplementation in this context is often genuinely corrective.